far. What are your thoughts?
It's tough. It's tough being that there's still 5 guys with the first team, so you don't really know until those guys come down. So right now, I mean, it's good. I mean, there's going to be a lot of changeover from last year. So I think that we had some experience coming back from last year's team. So it'll be yeah. We'll see. I'll be able to tell you next week a little bit more.
How do you feel the experience is going to help the new guys that are just being put on the roster?
Um, I think a couple of guys, with their experience, hopefully they'll help us. I know there'll be some guys from the first team coming down, which will help with that transition. But with so many new guys, it's just going to be time that's going to help them in their development. I think we're going to have to do a better job in regards to maybe doing a little bit more film and seeing just the way we play, but also with the new coach and the first team wanting to play, just has some different ideas. It might take its time, but we still have 3.5, 4 weeks before our home opener, so I think we'll be fine.
The newer players, what do you think they're going to bring to your program?
We'll see. It's such a difference between college and where they're from to the pros. So, they're used to being the big dogs, and now, they're back to being puppies. So we'll see how that growth happens. But I think the more important thing is it's the older guys and how they're able to help us along with this. I think that we have a lot of talented young guys, but the guys who were here last year, it's just how far they're along and can they perform at the way we ended last year, which I thought was quite good.
Coach, how many players do you have in camp right now, and how many will you pare it down to on March 8th?
There's about 28 guys right now, and that all depends with how many guys are going to come down from the first team. That'll dictate in regards to what the numbers are going to be like. So,
But what's the official roster limit? 22 or?
We're not sure. We might go with a little less because there might be a few guys coming down, so that's a little touchy. We'll know a little bit more in the next couple of weeks, pending exactly how the first team is doing with Houston and what their numbers are going to be like to see how many guys are actually going to come down.
Okay.
What are some of the things that you liked you saw from everybody today?
I like the energy. I like the finishing, the fact that we were able to score, a few goals. So that was important. I thought that some guys relatively were playing with each other instead of just being individualistic. And there's quite a few trialists, and sometimes that has a tendency of just showcasing themselves and trying to do things on their own. So I thought it was good that there was a lot of teamwork in regards on both sides of the ball.
Who had your goals today?
Now it just seems like you had 3 different rotations out there. Well, what was the main objective for you to get these minutes out of these players as you played the 3 30-minute rotations?
Well, with the fact that we only have 4.5 days, I think whenever you play more than that, you can put them at risk in regards to pulling some muscles or some injuries. So 30 minutes was enough. So we even borrowed a couple of the academy kids just to fill numbers. And that's just more for prevention. But we wanted to make sure that these guys stretched their legs out, obviously playing full field. So it was important just for us to see. We've been doing a lot of small-sided stuff and in compact spaces. So now that we're able to get on the full field, it gives us a different picture in regards to, maybe a little bit more of their athleticism and just being able to see the depth of the field and if can we switch a ball and just playing different types of balls. So that was important. But more than 30 minutes, you risk injury, and right now this early in the preseason, we don't need to risk that.
Now, you mentioned academy players, and that's always been a big part of the process that you've had down here. How much more can they contribute moving forward?
It's hard. They're here to fill in. They're too young still, to really make an impact. So, I think the last one we had, was 2 years ago with Brandon, and even last year. So he was a little bit different. I think we don't have right now anyone in the academy here that can really go and start training day in and day out just yet. We'll see in the next couple of weeks, but for them to make a difference, to make an impact, they're too young. I think they're here to fill in for us, to give them experience and hopefully move them along to make them into better, to eventually try to get them into games. But for us to depend on them, absolutely not.
Where would you like to see some improvement before next week?
Well, obviously fitness-wise, it's important. Right now, no one can play 90 minutes, or well, for that matter. So I think improvement in fitness. The ball movement was not as fast as we would have liked. I thought that there were moments in which the ball could have moved just a little bit faster and sharper. But again, when you have different size of the field and just different spaces, I think that that's something that we'll look forward to. Also, there was a couple of times defensively, there was just a couple of mislaps and miscommunication, but that's all with time. I mean, we're 4.5 days. It's just not enough for us to expect more than that. So I was quite pleased.
Given it's only been a few days that you guys have been together.
I mean, it's a pretty decent start. It's always good to start on the front foot, and we started with a victory today. So I mean, it's a plus for us.
Walk us through your goal, how you got it today.
I mean, I'm a player with a lot of speed, so I always look to get in behind defenders. And the center half, our center half, saw the play and I just ran behind the defender and get it in the goal.
With the small amount of time that you guys have been together, what can you kind of explain to us about your team that you've seen so far?
I mean, they're like half of the team was there from last year, so I mean the chemistry is already there. So I mean we're just building. We have pretty decent players. Some of the Charlies are pretty decent. So, I mean, but I think it's going to be a pretty good run this year.
For the scrimmage today, how did you feel about it?
So it was a pretty decent one. I mean, we started off with a victory, as I said before, so that's a plus for us. So we have to just build on this.
Now, with your limited time being here with the squad and also having some playing time from last season, what have your teammates from last season and some of the newer ones, how have you guys been able to adjust early on these 4 days?
I mean, I'm more settled now, and they know me more. They know my strength is speed, so they know that more. So I mean, they play to my strength more now because they know me. So I mean, it's pretty decent.